we manage it remotely, but it's not without issues, right?
Right. Sure.
But when you have a solid team that understand how to effectively execute the business plan, right, you're able to do a lot of these things as far as multifamily asset management remotely.
Your network is your net worth. Come listen to some of the most successful people I know share invaluable knowledge, stories, and advice in real estate, business, and beyond. This is Weiss Advice. Whether you want to take your business or personal life to the next level, look no further. Welcome back to another episode of Weiss Advice. This is your host, Yona Weiss. And if you've been listening to this podcast for some time now, you may have heard some incredible guests that we have on the show. Pretty much every episode is another amazing person, another amazing human being that has to do with real estate. And today is no different. We have our good friend, Hutch, the marine investor, Shalon Hutchinson, who is in the Southeast Asia right now, deployed and up early in the morning to join us here on this podcast. So thank you very much, Hutch. How you doing today?
Man, I'm doing fantastic. Man, it's been a long time coming, brother Yona. So I appreciate you having me on this podcast, brother.
It certainly has. I mean, I feel like we should have done this like 2 years ago already, but I remember actually, I think the first podcast that I did from my bedroom during the pandemic last year or 2 years ago was the one I did with you guys with Hutch and Heath, right? The multifamily real estate experiments. I did a few after that, but I was like, should I do podcasts when I'm in my bedroom here? Because I can't go out anywhere, quarantine. And I'm like, yeah, let's do it.
Man, we got so much of you that has to be shared with the world, man. Anyone that's listening to this podcast can attest that, you are the connection magnet, right? You are the connection God. You are the connector of connectors. You know what I mean? So, and what's amazing about it, Yona, is that I don't believe anyone think you do this for an ultimatum or whatever. You know what I mean? We know that you're just a kind person, and it's really good to surround yourself with a kind person, brother.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Well, like they say, birds of a feather flock together. We find each other. So I agree with you that. I agree with you there. I'm just a conduit. That's it. God gave me certain talents and abilities, and just try to connect people, try to do good in the world, and that's what I think we're all striving to do some way or another. But I definitely appreciate the words.
Yes, sir.
Hutch, I'd love our audience to get to know you a little bit. I mean, you come from Jamaica, Mon, which we got that Mon there a couple times already.
Yeah, Mon.
But tell us a little about your background. You've been in the Marines for 23 years, still actively, like we said, deployed right now, and coming on the podcast to make an appearance. And you've been a real estate investor for many years. So that was like the headings. So fill in the details for us.
No, man. So one of the cool things why I'm able to appreciate you so much, Yona, is because I'm at a whole different level in my growth. See, a lot of people age, but they don't grow. You know what I mean? So fortunately for me, coming as a little boy, walking to school bare feet on what used to be a slave plantation, like literally that thing was where I grew up, the community where I grew up was a coffee plantation with slaves in real life. That's back in the day stuff, So my family, direct descendants of that culture, right? So, growing up, I never really had anyone around me that provide a level of influence of what is possible, right? Because when you think about not being so far detached from the mentality of what was created in that environment, you know what I mean? I had a lot of growing to do, right? But what was fortunate for me, Yona, is that I didn't really have anyone in my circle or in my community not telling me what is not possible. So it wasn't telling me what's possible, but it was also not putting me in a box and telling me what's not possible. You know what I mean? So I grew up very free, very free in an abundance environment that provided me an ability to be a lot more resourceful, right? And to give me a deep appreciation for growth, So migrate to to the United States when I was 18. It's back in 98. Well, I kind of just aged myself right there, right? And I came to the States and I joined the Marine Corps. But, through my times in the Marine Corps, early age, my dad was teaching me real estate because he was watching these Carlton Sheets cassette. So he helped me to understand, like, look, Shalon, he called me Shalon, that's what family calls me. But, it was like, look, you have the possibility right now to own some of America, right? And as I grow throughout the years, going from single family to multifamily, now we're focused on owning more of America.
That's right.
You know what I mean? So a little bit over 23 years in the Marine Corps, and I'm telling you, it's the best mistake that I've ever made, brother.
And so you've all this time that you invested in single families and having transitioned into the multifamily space, it's all been while you've been active duty.
Absolutely. Yes. So I joined when I was 18. I'm, in my 40s right now, so Marine Corps is what I know, but I've been fortunate to be, surround myself with good people like yourself to help me to understand what is really possible out there. The ability to connect and the importance of connecting with others, to get to grow your sphere of influence, right? But also grow as a spiritual being, grow as a businessman, you know what I mean? And, I'm excited. Future's bright, brother.
Future is bright. Absolutely. And speaking of connecting with the right people, you have done that in finding, an amazing partner in what you've done. So tell me a little bit about how you met Heath and what you have put together since you've come together.
Yeah, so no doubt. Great question, brother. So look, I grew up on an island, right? And when you look at, figuratively speaking, right, when you look at, if you are on an island, I know a lot of folks have seen the movie Outcast, right? Where the guy got stuck there with his little ball, Wilson, and that's all he knows, right? That's the only level of communication that he had, So when you're on Tom Hanks, I believe the actor was, when you're on an island, right? One, he does provide you some opportunity to think with clarity. I trust that one of the things that we will realize that, when you have a team, you can go farther together. So when I was transitioning from single family to the multifamily space, I felt like I was on an island and I need to get off and spread my freaking wings. So I grew up on an island in Jamaica, went to Paris Island as a boot camp, right? Then got stationed in a Hawaiian island. So I have a lot of reference to islands, you know what I mean? So one of the things that I realized that I needed to get off an island and build a bigger team. So our good friend, Tim Kelly, I was getting ready to go to a real estate conference out in Dallas. And he asked me, Hutch, why are you going to this conference? I said, well, it's a multifamily conference. I want to transition to multifamily. He said, yes, I got it, Hutch. Why are you going to this conference? So I said, Tim, it's clear that I'm not answering the question the way you want me to answer the question, or you think I should answer. I said, well, what do you think, brother? He said, well, Hutch, when you go into these conferences, you either going to find deals, you're going to find partners, right? Or, for a specific reason, so I say, okay, because I'm on the island right now, I believe finding a partner would be good for the growth that I'm aspiring to have. So got to the conference, we had Hal Elrod, who talks about having an accountability partner. So Heath and I, we was connecting on the Uber app, asking a lot of useful questions because both of us was immersing ourselves into the syndication space, so we was asking good questions. And I found out it was in the Southeast as well, so like, oh, cool. These guys asking a lot of good questions, so we connected when we got to the conference. We both sat in the front row. And after the conference, we decided to become accountability partner. And after becoming accountability partner, analyzing some deals, doing the miracle morning like I'm doing right now, together, we got to learn a lot about each other, right? And we realized that we had a lot in common, not just about real estate, but just our approach to building relationship and our approach to communicating with each other. You know what I mean? So we are able to speak, we're able to attack a problem and never each other, man. And it was a beautiful growth that we had to with each other. And we realized, like, look, if you really look at the grand scheme of things, though, the reason why a lot of partnership grow apart is when money get involved. And we are both successful in our career, right? And we talk about so many things, man. I realize that I don't believe money will ever be a problem for us. She would never come between us, so we realized very early that we had very comparable values that can sustain a long-term partnership.
Yeah.
So we solidify that and doing good, brother.
I love that. I think
Yeah,
you
man.
hit on a couple really good points here that I just want to bring out and reiterate is, number one is that last point that you ended off with is that, the partnerships, when it's built on common values more than anything
Right.
else, then it holds much more strength in that, longevity of that relationship. But another thing is that you went in, wanting to find that partner, but not necessarily, you didn't start out with, hey, let's partner on this deal together. No, it was, let's spend some more time. Let's be accountability partners. Let's keep each other in line. Let's analyze some deals together, give that feedback. And, you didn't commit to anything. And I think a lot of people may be scared about, knowing that, yes, I need a partner. I need to have a team to grow, but are afraid to commit to someone, afraid to find, another person, because what happens if it doesn't work out? And you're already in a deal together. That's very scary, and that's a good fear to have. But when you're doing it the way that you did it, which is that you just had an accountability partner, you didn't commit to, we're going to be doing, 10 deals together and putting all this money in. No, let's start with baby steps. Let's start, just getting to know each other, just finding out where we have common ground. That's incredible to me.
Yes, sir.
When you came together and obviously invested in some deals together, finding multifamily, you're doing it all remotely, right? I mean, you are overseas right now, you're deployed. Obviously, you did some traveling around as well. But either way, even if you're living in California or in Southeast Asia, you're investing in the Southeast of, not Asia, Southeast of the United States, right? So,
Right. That's right.
So, what drove you to find those markets that you are invested in, and how you managing it, totally remotely?
Yeah. So one of the cool things that when we started out, I lived in Pensacola at the time, so I was living about approximately 2 hours away from Heath. He lives in Southern Alabama as well. So I would drive 2 hours to his house, and Huntsville was our preferred market at the time. So I would drive 2 hours to his house and then 4 hours to the market. So this gave us a lot of time together. We listened to some 10X, listen to Grant Cardone, listen to some Jim Rome, some Tony Robbins, listen to some of these high level performer that don't just speak to your business, but they speak to who you are as a spiritual being. So we would pause the recording, pause the podcast, pause the YouTube video, whatever the case may be. And then we'll talk about some things like, what does it really mean to you? So that gave us a deeper insight of who we were as a spiritual being. And that was freaking amazing, man. So we were in the same time zone. So it gave us the opportunity to wake up early in the morning and do analysis of the market, analysis of a deal. And Heath, he's a research scientist for the Army, so numbers is his thing. Right. And myself being a senior enlisted in the Marine Corps, planning operation, executing operation, leading a small team. That's my thing. So we have very comparable skills, right? That kind of cross pollinate, but we kind of stay in our lane, right? To be able to create the big vision and see what's possible for a multifamily opportunity, and one being able to put it into numbers. So we had comparable skills. So what was cool about Huntsville is there was a significant amount of growth there, and when you have a market with significant amount of growth, it's super competitive. So we're still hunting for properties in Huntsville. But right now, our preferred markets, the market we have found the most traction in, that we have over 200 units, almost 300 units there, is Augusta, Georgia. So we got almost 300 units in Augusta, Georgia, and a little bit over 50 units in South Carolina.
That's nice. That's great.
But as far as how we're able to manage that, yes, sir. Look, one of the cool things about the multifamily space is that you're concerned, but you're not doing this on a day-to-day basis as far as dealing with tenants, toilets, trash, and termites, right? We put processes in place via a third-party property manager on all of our assets to take care of the tenants, termites, and toilets, right? And trash, of course. So we have had a couple of hiccups with one of our properties with property managers, with a few property managers that said that they could deliver, right? They could perform, but they did not deliver on that performance. So we went through a couple of property manager in a specific area on a specific asset, to where the management team actually take over the asset after a year of owning that property. But we do have a couple hundred units that is performing superbly with the management that we put in place. So we manage it remotely, but it's not without issues, right?
Sure.
But when you have a solid team that understand how to effectively execute the business plan, right, you're able to do a lot of these things as far as multifamily asset management remotely.
Absolutely. And I mean, coming up with that business plan and, like you said, communicating that with the property manager to make sure that they are going to be able to execute that, it's challenging. I mean, getting to know the deal and getting to know all the challenges that are in that property and knowing what needs to be changed, what needs to be done differently to make it more profitable, because obviously it's a community, it's a place for people to live, but ultimately it's a business that you're running, and having that property manager in place is going to be the deciding factor, basically, probably the most important factor of whether or not that's going to profit. I'm curious to know what were, some of those things that were not successful that you had to replace that property management, if you want to go into that a little.
Yeah, so we had this property management company, and this property management company is one of the reasons why I don't do any professional recommendations to folks, right? Because this was a property management company that we really, really wanted to have in that Southeast region, right? Because they manage thousands of units, right, in the Southeast. But what happened is that when they took over that asset, right, their reporting was, the way they report was good, but the timeliness of their reporting was not good. And the reason for that is the manager that was assigned to that asset was not visiting the property as much as they need to. So what happened is that they lost touch with the level of attention that this property needs. So look, this is not a small asset. This is a pretty it's a medium-sized asset and when you think about it, institutional quality, it's a medium-sized asset, right? But it took a while. It's kind of like trying to turn around a freaking aircraft carrier. That stuff doesn't happen in a minute, right? It takes a lot of planning, weather coordination, tying down things on the surface of the ship, on the flight deck, and actually making a plan to actually turn this large aircraft carrier around. It takes time and it takes planning, so with the property manager being out of touch by not being present on the assets, that causes a significant delay in what specific attention these property needed. By the time the information got to us, it was a month already, right? Wow. And a month getting bad news is way too late to get bad news on an asset that we have a timeline to turn around. Wow. So we had to pull the brakes and got a portion of the team in there to correct a lot of deficiencies, and the property is doing real good right now. We brought the delinquency and also the vacancy from a high vacancy to a significantly low vacancy right now, to where it's almost stabilized. We got one of the lead sponsors on the team, on the deal, on a weekly basis. They're doing a lot of coordination, and man, it's like night and day. We asked ourselves, why didn't we do this earlier? Yeah, you know what I mean? But
it's a learning experience. Yeah, it's definitely a learning experience.
It's good.
And I think everyone needs to go through these hiccups from time to time, because through that you grow, through that you get better, through that never to make those mistakes again, or to catch them when they do come up. Because had you not gone through this, you may never have had the wherewithal to know when to find a bad problem, when to find this problem in the management. So glad you were able to find that. I want to go back to something I didn't speak about before, but this is something, obviously you mentioned Tim Kelly earlier and the, active duty passive income. We actually had Kevin Brenner on the podcast recently as well. Good people. Absolutely. Were you involved at all with that, or getting some tutoring? Obviously you started off investing in single family properties, and before you made that transition, was it through that kind of education, or how did you, you said your father was telling you to buy a property in America, buy up the land, but, who was it or what was it that actually triggered you to buy your first property?
Yeah. So what happened is that I was living in Hawaii at the time, and my dad is a single family space guy. He was a single family real estate agent. He was also a single family investor, right? So that was my paradigm, right? It's kind of like growing up in India, or growing up in China, or grew up in the South, right? At some point, that's gonna drive your level of who you worship, right? Your religion, your paradigm per se, right? So what my dad was teaching me was about a single family space. So in 2005, I bought my first condo, right? And within 6 months, we sold it for a significant amount of profit, rolled that money into a single family live-in flip. And I think I actually did a TikTok video yesterday, or a post, showing this for the first time, saying that this is a single family house that it cost me $55,000 to sell, right? So we don't always make money in the real estate. You know what I mean? So I bought a condo. We bought it for 161. Within less than 6 months, we sold it for 235. You know what I mean? So it's significant growth. Rolled that money into a single family house, but then it cost me $55,000 just to sell that house. The reason why I had to sell that house, because I was moving from Hawaii, where my basic allowance for housing was significantly more than it was moving to Florida at the time, right? So I had to sell that property. So I was fortunate to be resourceful, right, and be able to sell that house and not having to file any kind of financial bankruptcy, whatever the case may be. So I continue on that journey as far as investing in a single family space. And I had the pleasure or the opportunity to attend a conference that talked about investing in single family property using other people's money. So we pull a lot of money out of our, what we call it, the thrift savings plan, right? I pull a loan for myself, right? And invest in a single family flip, pay myself back, right? Which I was the bank, and that was pretty cool. But I also used some hard money to supplement what I needed as well. Right. So, when I went to the conference, they talk about the natural progression, single family investment to a multifamily. So that's what we were trying to get to eventually. Right. So while doing the single family flip, one of my good friend brought over 50 plus multifamily units. We call it apartment complex to me. And I was super fascinated. I had a few folks that said they would invest with me. And I now got a taste of what's possible. So this was 2019. And they're like, look, after we sold a single family huge flip, made a significant amount of profit, my wife Athena and I were like, look, we wanted to go to the multifamily property. Why don't we make this transition? And that's where, right around the time, I got involved with Tim Kelly. And he's a big mindset guy. He's the type of guy that, look, you are thinking small, right? You need to think bigger. But when you think bigger, you also need to have focus thinking. So don't try to do flip, don't try to do a wholesale and note buying and all these different avenue. He said, pick a asset class and focus on it, and you promise you will go vertical. So 2019, we start focusing on multifamily, and with over 350 units in a short period of time, I think it's been an amazing growth, at least for me. The old country boy from Jamaica used to walk to school bare feet.
That's huge. I wouldn't. That's unbelievable. It really is. It's an amazing story, and you've just begun. The truth is, I know. You have a great passion in this, and continue looking at trying to find good deals. Obviously, the market is very difficult right now, but when it go in pencils out, I know you're going to jump on board. That's for sure.
Yeah. The market is doing, I wouldn't say the market is doing fascinating, but I think a lot of folks are alarmed or concerned about the rise in interest rates. But I think historically, if you look back, you realize that interest rate is not the highest it has ever been, right? We are just coming out of a period of investment tactics, right? Everyone wants to make money in real estate, right? Whether it be to fund their retirement plan as a income stream, right? Or income stream, or to fund a retirement plan. You usually, and also tax savings. When you look at the grand scheme of things, this is not the highest interest rate I've ever been, But when you look at some reports that was published, say for example, the sales volume in Q1 of 2022. Right, over $63 billion in sales volume, right? It's the highest first quarter. A lot of reports are showing. So it's been phenomenal. Now, with a higher interest rate, of course, that might slow the volume down a lot. But when you think about it, over $250 billion, right, of dry powder that's available. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of money available just to invest in the multifamily space. You know what I mean? So that's over $714 billion in purchasing power at 65% loan to value ratio. Right. You know what I mean? So the volume in Q1 of 2022 is significant, but there's also significant amount more money available to purchase multifamily properties.
Yeah, people want to just put their money in for sure.
Yes, sir.
There's a lot of money out there. A lot of people still looking at deals and trying to buy. I'm sure that is going to continue. Going to be a continuing trend. We will see what happens. Obviously, everyone is trying to pay attention, but you never know. Yes, sir. You know, it's just about observing the market trends and trying to make smart decisions. So tell me, Hutch, let me ask you, you've been 23 years, you know, a Marine, proud, the few, right? What's the slogan?
Few the proud.
I don't know.
Few the proud of Marines.
The Marines, yeah. Do you have the long-term goal? I mean, are you set to, you have a retirement plan coming up? You have a transition out of that, the skill bridge, or what do you call it? What's the plan for that?
Yeah, skill bridge, I think, will be beautiful. But what comes with a skill bridge is it's all about timing. I do have a phone call with one of my good friend, Wesley Yates, next Saturday, I believe next Saturday, to kind of talk about some different exit strategy and how does skill bridge fit into that, and how does skill bridge in the real estate syndication space fit into that. You know what I mean? So it's all about identifying people that can show you what's possible, right? They did say, man, your network is your net worth. You know what I mean? So I ran into Wesley Yates, who used to be a Marine. Of course, once a Marine, always a Marine. I ran into him at the Best Ever Conference, and we had a pretty good conversation. And one of the things we talk about is what does exit strategy look like beyond the Marine Corps? And skill bridge is one of those things we talk about. But of course, you know, we get orders from place to place, right? And that comes with a level of commitment, because look, the Marine Corps expect nothing but 100% commitment and effort, right? So if I do get assigned within the next few months, then of course I will do what is right, and execute that responsibility, you know. And then skill bridge, I would have to time that to ensure that I can have an easier transition from what I call comfort in the Marine Corps, you know, having a solid, you know, 2 paycheck per month, you know, to where I can maintain and improve the trajectory of my family's financial future. You know what I mean? So it's coming up right now. I'm looking at maybe next October, but I'm due for orders or reassignments right now. So we will see within the next month or so what the Marine Corps have in store for me and how much it aligns with what I'm aspiring to do.
I hear,
you know, so,
I hear that.
Yes,
obviously, you know, you gotta go with what you're assigned to do. I value, you know, and respect your commitment to that. Obviously, it is something that you want to transition out of. Not that you don't love it and enjoy it for all the years you've done it, but you know, being able to go more full time into the multifamily space is, I think, something that you clearly want to do.
Yes, sir.
Hutch, I want to transition to now what we call the final four. These are 4 questions I ask all my guests. The first question: what is the worst job that you ever had?
Man, look, one of the cool things about being a leader, right, is not asking people to do things that you have not done yourself, or you would not do yourself. You know what I mean? So early in my career, you know, I think in a lot of culture, they tell you this too, right? Where whatever job you're doing, make sure you do that job to the best of your ability, right? And when I say this, I'm not knocking anybody's hustle, right? Because to each their own, we all have our part to play in society. But a lot of our grandparents tell you that if you are the guy cleaning the where people put their body waste, right, you be the best person cleaning that environment, right? If you are the trash guy, you be the best trash guy possible, right? So early in my career, I had the opportunity, to grow through a very shitty situation. Literally, I had to clean some toilets on a a training camp. We had very little resource, right? Where the grunts, they would come back from the field and they would use the restroom and you'd be like, holy crap, no impact, no idea. They would totally miss where they're supposed to be aiming at. And young Lance Corporal Hutch had to clean that area, you know what I mean? But I had to humble myself and, make it happen, understand like, look, if I need to use this area in the wee hours of the night, right, I could benefit from the task that I'm about to do. You know what I mean? So I didn't quite enjoy it, but as I grew as a leader, I found a good appreciation, for that task.
It's a good lesson.
Yeah, it came to the point where I had to be the one assigning folks to do that. And I had to be able to explain to them, here's the why in doing this. You know what I mean? So I think it was a good lesson learned for me.
It's a big lesson. I don't think anyone envies the position, but there's a reason why we call it the worst job that you ever had. I think you passed that one with flying colors. But taking the lesson, that's important. Second question, what's a book you've read that's given you a paradigm shift?
Yeah, so I first learned about the word paradigm, right? When I read the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I was at a low in my career, right? I was on the verge of getting out of the Marine Corps. And then, Athena sat me down. Athena and I, we always masterminded over the years, right? So one of the things that we pride ourselves in doing is solving our own problem. Not that we had big problems, but we had the ability to really early in our life that, look, for our relationship to work, it has to be us that fix it. Right. And in order to fix our relationship, it starts with our individual commitment to any relationships. So Athena and I was masterminding very early in a relationship. And I was at a part of my career where a lot of external factor was acting up on me, right? Which I believe was acting up on me to push me towards getting out of the Marine Corps. And then Athena and I was sitting down masterminding. And she asked me about my goals and aspiration when I re-enlisted at that time. And I said, I wanted to retire from the Marine Corps, and she asked me, why are you allowing external factors, right, to push you away from your personal and professional goal? So right then and there, I realized that the way I was showing up to the environment or reacting to a situation was not the best way, and something had to change. So I went on this path of spiritual healing, or even just learning myself as a spiritual being. And that led me to the book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey, which I believe is a holistic way of living as a spiritual being. So I came across the word paradigm, of having paradigm shift. And from then I went on a search and a quest to see what I can create of this spiritual being that I was blessed with. You know what I mean? So 7 Habits of Highly Effective People was the book that shifted my paradigm in becoming a better person. Yes,
awesome. Sir. Love it. Love it. It's been mentioned before, definitely, and for good reason, because it's such a tremendous book. A must read by anyone and everyone at many different times during your life too, because I've picked that book up many times, and you read it differently based on, what you're going through at that time. And it's really about, the final of the 7 habits is just, sharpening the saw, is constantly learning and constantly growing. And hopefully you'll be able to grow on those principles and those habits that he calls them, which are really just principles. Yeah. All right. Awesome. Well, we'll put that in the show notes for anyone who hasn't checked it out. Make sure to do so. Third question, Hutch, what is a skill or talent that you would like to learn?
So from reading the book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Brother Yona, one of the skill that I'm focused on learning is me, right? No matter where I am, no matter where I go, there I am. So I am focused on self-mastery. And when you focus on self-mastery, the sky is the freaking limit, I tell you. You know what I mean? So that is a skill that I'm focused on right now, because as you grow, you realize that you have a lot more growing to do. And I think, the way we show up in the world, I think it's a skill, right? And something that we have to be conscious about.
100%.
So self-mastery is a skill that I'm focused on right now.
It's the most important skill of all, because that will lead to greatness in everything. Yes, so sir. I love that. Fourth and final question, what does success mean to you?
So I often say this, Yona, for me, success is not getting to the end of life and having a lot of regrets, right? I know we're going to look back and say, man, that was a missed opportunity. Right. But, I learned this quote from my wife, Athena, right? She says, I don't think she coined the phrase, but she's the one that I heard it from. She said, it's never too late to become who you might have been. Right. I don't know who said those words. Right. But I'm conscious of that every single day, so I aspire to never live my life without regret, because when I get to the end of my life, I want to be able to, get to heaven. And I believe when you get to heaven is when you meet who you could have been, and you can identify with that individual. Success is not living a life of regret. But look, one of the things that I'm most concerned about is to be successful as a father and a husband. That's important to me, because they are my wife and my children. They are my biggest why. So they're the reason why I stayed in the Marine Corps and continue serving this great country. They're the reason why we're going into multifamily space, right? They're the reason why I'm connecting myself with good people like yourself to ensure that the level of growth that I have as a spiritual being is consistent with being a better husband and being a better father. You know what I mean? So success, that's what it means to me, brother.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah, man.
Unbelievable. Hutch, where can our listeners find you or reach out to you? Not physically find you, because it's top secret. No one can find you. But
yeah, but I'm Hutch the Marine. I'm Hutch the Marine Investor on LinkedIn. I'm not sure they love me to did it, so I put Hutch the Marine Investor on LinkedIn. To your point, it's a good marketing name, I believe. Right. Also, if you want to get in touch with us, just go to our website at H Squared Capital and download our operation manual. Right. And this will give you some insight of how to leverage apartment syndicators to grow your real estate portfolio as an active investor, or more so as a passive investor. So right now, we're committed to providing real estate opportunity to those who serve in our military by bringing them together with accredited investor to purchase apartment complex and get their time back. We also donating 10% off our acquisition fee to nonprofit organization that benefits our veterans. You know what I mean? So it's good to have a partner where money is not really a big issue, and we are able to use that capital to create an impact to those that we care about as well. So H Squared Capital or Hutch the Marine Investor on LinkedIn.
Awesome. We'll make sure to put that on the show notes. And you're everywhere. I mean, you're active on Facebook and Instagram. Also, I see your stuff now, TikTok. Who knows where? You can find Hutch everywhere you look. It's been a pleasure. It truly has. Thank you again for joining me, and wish you much continued success.
Brother Yona, greatly appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you. And to our listeners, thank you guys for joining once again until the end. And remember, the best advice comes only when you ask. Real quick, I have one question for you. Did you like this episode? If you did, I want to ask you a huge favor. See, the biggest thing that helps this podcast grow and that will spread this message to the whole world is that if you leave a review, a rating, and subscribe to the podcast. What that does is it basically tells the platforms that this podcast is out on is that you like my stuff and I'm doing something right. So take a few seconds out of your day, hit that subscribe button, leave a rating or review. I would be extremely grateful. Also, I want to hear from you guys. So I want to hear some feedback. If you have any questions for future episodes, please find me on LinkedIn. Send me a DM, a connection request, Yona Weiss, and I'd love to hear from you.